Hello, my name's Mike. I'm from the New York City chapter of the Zeitgeist movement, and this is my response to a video entitled Zeitgeist 3 Cliff Notes. Well, let's have a look.
Did you see Zeitgeist 3? And it was even scarier than I was expecting. Zeitgeist is advocating that we eliminate all money from the system. Evil comes from within the human mind. Correct that problem and you'll have world peace. But don't demonize paper. Hold criminals accountable.
Wow, what a belligerent statement. Way to ignore all the scientific studies and all the scientific facts that were cited in Zeitgeist moving forward. The movie featured interviews with a professor of neurological science, a professor of social epidemiology, and two psychologists, one of which spent half his life working with violent criminals. I wonder how much research this woman has done on human behavior. Come to think of it, I've actually never heard anybody cite any scientific studies or quote any research that they've done while using the human nature argument to criticize the movement. And our society already does hold criminals accountable, but rates of crime continue to rise as inequality grows.
One of the things that they say is that if a person has a need to use an item for 45 minutes a day, why not just check it out from a library instead? I use my, say, headphones for about 45 minutes a day. And I don't want to drive to a distribution center to pick them up every single time. I don't even want to drive to a distribution center once every 2 weeks.
A pair of headphones can easily be delivered to you through a pneumatic pressure tube. And in our society today, most people already travel to stores in order to buy things much more often than once every 2 weeks.
I have shoes that I only wear for special occasions. So what, I gotta go get somebody's used shoes now? This is not working.
If you want a pair of fancy shoes for a special occasion, you can use a 3D printer to make a pair, and you can design them however you want. And when you're done using those shoes, the materials that they're made out of can be recycled and used to make something else.
Everything is going to be public transportation, so if you want to go to a city somewhere else, you can't just jump in your car. No, you have to go stand somewhere, hopefully not in the cold, wait in line for crappy public transportation, always breaks down.
In a monetary system, public transportation is crappy because the public transportation companies that run them want to cut their costs so that they can maximize their profit margins. In a resource-based economy, there will be no reason not to build the most advanced transportation system, the best transportation system that we can possibly build. And it might look something like this.
Stations are on a separate track from the main track, so that stopped vehicles do not interfere with the free flow of passing traffic. With Ultra, you don't wait for vehicles. Vehicles wait for you. Moving smoothly and silently, the battery-powered vehicles are safe and reliable, traveling up to 3 times faster than a car. London's Heathrow Airport will host the world's first Ultra system. Construction at Heathrow has already begun.
All of the resources on the whole globe are going to be accounted for. It's global. Isn't that what we're fighting against? People were freaking out about RFID chips in their hand. You just scan the hand and the computer says, access denied. Machines are going to be turned off. Ours, the people who speak out against the system. Access to rent clothes, to rent the things that we need. Access is going to be denied. Ours. And the thing that they're not going to use that as a voter control is where bad people will control the machines. He said, I can assure you that people will be volunteering left, right. I can assure you those volunteers will be solely the Republicans and the Democrats, and that if you go
society, central planning was done by people. And those people obviously had a lot of power, and power corrupts people. But in a resource-based economy, central planning isn't done by people, it's done by computer programs. And those computer programs can be written in an open source fashion by tons of people all contributing, volunteering their time, just like the way they make Linux and Wikipedia. And with all those people contributing over the internet, and all those other people who may not be contributing directly, but who can go on the internet and look at the program as it's being written, that'll weed out corruption, because everybody will be able to see it. It'll be transparent. Most people today don't have a problem with centrally planned water systems. What do you think the plumbing of a sewer system is? It's a centrally planned, controlled system that allows water to flow where it's needed, so you can get a drink. There's also central air conditioning, especially if you have a really advanced air conditioning system that can regulate the flow of air to different rooms if someone is in them or not in them using sensors. A small group of people having a ton of power over everyone else is not true collectivism. Just because in the past people set up despotic totalitarian systems under the guise of collectivism doesn't mean that forever after, any time you try to have collectivism, it's gonna end up the same way. That's just not the case.
They're actually ushering in globalization. They don't explain at all how it's not going to work, because they don't explain how evil powers who control our system right now are not going to take control of the new system. The people in power now are so powerful, they'll just take over the system. How do they get control of our food supply that's run by Monsanto? How did they do that? They just took control of it. They started shutting down small farmers. Do you think that they're just going to disappear? No. They turn on the lights. One switch. All of the city's lights go on. All of the world's lights go on. No more need to put people in jail. What do you need to put people in jail for when they're being enslaved in their homes? With one click of a switch, they can lock everyone's doors on the whole planet remotely dismantle the technology that Zeitgeist promotes. Zeitgeist, they are telling us what is about to happen in our future and trying to get us to accept that so that we don't fight against us. See what they're doing. It's scary what they're promoting.
It's scary what Zeitgeist is promoting? I think your fear is badly misplaced. You shouldn't be afraid of change. You should be afraid of what's going to happen if things don't change. The Zeitgeist movement is ushering in globalization. We already have globalization. We have international corporations. We have international banks that impose austerity measures on whole countries that are in debt to them until people starve to death. How are we going to stop the people in power now from taking over the new system? How are we going to stop the people in power now from taking over the system we have now? How are we going to stop them from getting more and more powerful as the wealth gap grows? And how are we going to stop them from getting more powerful as military technology becomes more advanced? Take a look at this robot that the military has in development. It can jump over obstacles. It can climb over obstacles. If you push it, it can regain its balance and keep going. Imagine this thing coming after you with a machine gun mounted on it. Now that's pretty scary. They have a biped version too. A soldier might not blindly follow all the orders he's given. A soldier has a conscience on some level. A soldier, you have a chance of reasoning with a soldier, but not with this thing. How far will the sickness of power addiction go if we continue to operate under a system that perpetuates it? You shouldn't be afraid of the Zeitgeist movement wanting to change things. You should be afraid of Monsanto. You should be afraid of international banks and international corporations. You should be afraid of the billionaires who are addicted to money and power and who are continuing to gain more and more of it. And you should be terrified that most of the people around you are completely oblivious to all this, because that's the real reason why that the elite have all this power and control. We can use modern technology to free people from their monotonous 9-to-5 jobs, and that'll make it a lot harder to keep them all distracted. Or we can sit around and wait for the powerful to use this technology to help feed their addictions for more and more power to the detriment of all of us. So don't be afraid of change. Be afraid of the direction we're headed in right now, and join the Zeitgeist movement before it's too late.